The great crystalline chamber of deliberation hummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, a resonant frequency tuned to the anxiety of the assembled delegates. It was not the usual gentle thrum of the hegemony's central processing nexus, but a deeper, more unsettling chord, a note struck by existential dread. Luminescent data streams, cool and blue, arced across the vast, vaulted ceiling, depicting swirling nebulae and distant, uncatalogued star systems, yet their beauty was lost on the dozens of species arrayed below. Each representative, from the towering, multi-limbed xylos to the diminutive, chitin-shelled viridian, bore the weight of galactic uncertainty in their multifaceted eyes. The central dais, a shimmering disk of psionically attuned crystal, remained vacant, awaiting the arrival of the Grand Arbiter. Counselor Vikrel, his 4 primary manipulators resting heavily on the polished armrests of his ceremonial perch, felt the familiar ache of stress coalesce in his synaptic nodes. The Virel, renowned for their logical rigor and emotional suppression, rarely succumbed to such visceral manifestations of disquiet, yet the reports filtered through the hegemony's intelligence networks had begun to erode even their legendary composure. The humans. A newly emergent species, barely 2 cycles removed from their initial, hesitant forays into interstellar travel, had become an anomaly, a persistent, growing thorn in the side of established galactic order. Their expansion was aggressive, yet their communications were cryptic. Their technology was rudimentary by hegemony standards, yet their resilience was unsettling. And now, the latest intelligence report, whispered across secure channels, spoke of something far more troubling. The reports are contradictory, Arbiter, Counselor Siller of the Eldrin, her voice a series of melodic clicks and whistles, projected into the reverberating silence as the Grand Arbiter finally phased onto the dais, his form coalescing from a shimmering pillar of light. The Arbiter, a being of pure energy whose true form was known only to the most ancient of species, pulsed with a gentle, calming luminescence, yet even his aura seemed strained by the gravity of the situation. Our deep space probes observed a construct, in the sector designated Xylos 4 near the Cathar expanse, a singular vessel. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. The Cathar expanse was a disputed zone, a turbulent region of protostars and volatile nebulae, barely charted and avoided by most reputable species due to its inherent navigational hazards and unpredictable energy surges. It was not a sector where one would expect to find any vessel, let alone a newly contacted species, craft. A singular vessel, Siller? The Grand Arbiter's voice resonated not through the air, but directly into the minds of the delegates, a chorus of harmonized thoughts. What are its specifications, its class, its designation? Counselor Vikrel mentally accessed his data logs, the information scrolling across his internal visual cortex. Arbiter, that is where the discrepancies arise. The initial deep scan registered it as a scout-class vessel, barely capable of independent warp travel, yet subsequent telemetry, it defies logic. The energy signatures, they are fluctuating wildly. One moment it appears as a small exploratory craft. The next, its mass readings spike to unprecedented levels. Our instruments interpret it as something approaching, a planetary defense platform, but then it reverts. The readings are inconsistent, impossible. Impossible is a term we rarely use, Vikrel, the Arbiter intoned, his luminescence intensifying slightly. Elaborate on the inconsistencies. Counselor RHIs, a multifaceted insectoid whose species communicated through a complex interplay of pheromones and subsonic vibrations, projected a series of images onto the crystalline floor. They depicted a vessel, crude in its geometric simplicity compared to the sleek, organic curves of hegemony design. It was dark, angular, and seemed almost impossibly large in some projections, its hull pocked and scarred as if by countless engagements, yet utterly pristine in others. It appears ancient, Arbiter, and simultaneously newly built. The spectral analysis of its hull composition shows materials not yet synthesized by any known hegemony species, alongside traces of primitive alloys. Its energy signature suggests a propulsion system unlike any theoretical model. It does not utilize gravitic sails nor conventional plasma drives. It appears to manipulate spacetime directly, and yet its power core readings are so low they barely register. It is as if it is drawing energy from an unknown source, or operating on principles we cannot comprehend. The fear in the chamber thickened. The hegemony had long prided itself on its comprehensive understanding of physics and engineering. To encounter a craft that defied established scientific prink, Ipples was not merely unsettling, it was profoundly destabilizing. And the name of this construct? The arbiter asked, his voice now imbued with a subtle undercurrent of concern. Counselor Siller's melodic clicks grew sharper, betraying her unease. The human designations are often simplistic, arbiter. They appear to favor descriptive titles or names drawn from their ancient mythologies. Our linguistic analysis protocols struggled with this one. Based on a fragmentary intercepted distress beacon, though no distress was actually observed, and subsequent, equally fragmented communication bursts, the humans refer to it as the starfall. But then the beacon's secondary identification code, the one that truly alarms us, it registered as the myth, followed by battle. A stunned silence fell. The delegates processed the implications. A vessel known as the myth that was suddenly appearing in a volatile sector, defying all known physics and seemingly ready for battle. And its mission? The arbiter inquired, the light within him dimming to a deeper blue, a sign of profound introspection. Unknown, arbiter, Counselor Vikrel responded, his internal struggle evident in the slight trembling of his manipulators. It has made no aggressive moves. It has not responded to our hails in any coherent manner. Its trajectory seems erratic. One moment it is on a direct intercept course for the core hegemony systems. The next it veers sharply, as if avoiding an unseen obstacle or pursuing an unseen target. Our long-range sensors indicate a faint, almost imperceptible distortion field around it. It is as if the fabric of space itself is being subtly warped around its presence. Our navigators are struggling to plot its course with any accuracy. Could it be a weapon? Counselor Alara, a shimmering, amorphous being from the gaseous planetoids of the Cygnus Veil, projected her thought form into the collective consciousness. Her species rarely spoke, preferring telepathic communication, and her query carried the weight of a species accustomed to the vastness and dangers of the cosmos. A weapon of what kind, Alara? Vikrel countered, a touch of frustration in his mental projection. Its energy signatures are too inconsistent for a directed energy weapon. Its mass is too variable for a kinetic projectile. Its movement defies all tactical predictions. It is not moving like an instrument of war. It is moving like a phantom. The arbiter contemplated the projected images, the impossible vessel flickering between states of colossal majesty and insignificant presence. And the humans, what are their known capabilities? Our initial intelligence suggested a species barely capable of rudimentary FTL, still grappling with internal planetary conflicts, prone to irrational emotional outbursts. That is precisely the point of contention, arbiter, Siller chimed in, her clicks growing frantic. Their known capabilities do not align with the existence of this starfall vessel. Their core fleet consists of designs that are primitive, albeit robust. Their energy weapons are projectile-based, not even close to the sustained plasma streams we employ. Their shielding technology is rudimentary. There is no logical progression from their known technological baseline to something of this magnitude. It is as if it appeared from nowhere. Or, more disturbingly, as if they have been concealing a profound technological leap, one they have managed to keep hidden from our comprehensive surveillance networks for decades. The thought sent shivers through the crystalline chamber. The hegemony prided itself on its meticulous intelligence gathering, its ability to monitor nascent species and guide their development, preventing destabilizing technological surges. The idea that a species could completely bypass their oversight was not merely an embarrassment. It was a profound threat to their galactic authority. And their communications, the arbiter prompted. Have they responded to our recent diplomatic overtures regarding the Cathar expanse and this anomaly? Counselor Vikrel sighed, a barely audible huff of processed air. They have responded, arbiter, with a message that is both concise and utterly perplexing. It was transmitted on a secure, encrypted channel, yet they made no attempt to conceal its origin. It reads, and I quote, "We understand your concern regarding our presence in the Cathar expanse. The Starfall is engaged in a critical, non-aggressive mission. We assure you there is no hostile intent. Further details are currently classified for reasons of galactic security." End quote. A wave of incredulity swept through the delegates. Galactic security, a newly emergent species barely capable of interstellar flight, lecturing the hegemony on galactic security. The audacity was breathtaking. Classified for reasons of galactic security, Alara's thought form pulsed with indignation. They are withholding information from the hegemony, a direct affront to established protocols. Indeed, Alara, Vikrel confirmed, his internal sensors detecting a surge of anger from his fellow delegates. and the use of the term starfall in their response, yet still referring to it as the myth in their internal beacon data. It is a deliberate obfuscation. They are aware of our surveillance, aware of our attempts to identify this vessel, and they are actively manipulating the information we receive. The Arbiter, however, remained silent for a long moment, his light pulsing with an even deeper blue. Manipulation implies intent, Vikrel. What if their communication is simply accurate? What if they genuinely believe the Starfall to be engaged in a mission critical to galactic security, and that our understanding of their technology or the nature of the threat would be insufficient to comprehend their actions? The suggestion was met with a chorus of mental protests. Such humility from a hegemony official was almost unheard of. With all due respect, Arbiter, Siller began, her clicks agitated, that implies a level of technological and strategic advancement far beyond anything we have observed from the humans. Their history is replete with internal conflicts, with resource wars, with rapid shifts in political ideologies. They are an emotional species, prone to unpredictable behavior. To suggest they possess a hidden capability, one so profound it could impact galactic security, and that they have withheld it from us, is unpalatable. Perhaps unpalatable is a necessary truth, Counselor, the Arbiter countered, his mental projection gaining a subtle intensity. We must consider all possibilities, even those that challenge our preconceptions. The humans are an anomaly. They have demonstrated an unprecedented rate of technological advancement in certain areas, particularly in computational processing and theoretical physics, even if their applied engineering appears rudimentary. Could this starfall be the culmination of a theoretical breakthrough, one that we have overlooked? The idea hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. The hegemony's scientific dogma, refined over millennia, was considered inviolable. To suggest that a nascent species could stumble upon a fundamental principle of the universe that the hegemony had missed was almost heresy. And if it is a threat, Counselor RHI's vibrated, his pheromones indicating deep unease. If this myth is not a myth but a concealed weapon capable of devastating power disguised by its fluctuating readings, the Cathar expanse is strategically vital. It borders several key hegemony trade routes. If they establish a foothold there with such a craft, the unspoken implication was clear. The hegemony's dominance would be challenged, its security compromised. A species capable of such deception and such power would be an existential threat. We cannot engage in preemptive action based on speculation and contradictory data, the Arbiter declared, his voice firm, quelling the rising tide of fear. However, we cannot ignore this. We will dispatch a diplomatic envoy, a single hegemony vessel unarmed, to approach the Starfall and demand clarification. Counselor Vikrel, you will lead this mission. Your species, reputation for logical assessment and unwavering resolve will be essential. You will be accompanied by Counselor Siller, for her expertise in linguistic analysis and cultural protocols, and Counselor RHI's, for his experience in negotiating with unpredictable species. Vikrel felt a cold dread settle in his synaptic nodes. Diplomacy with the unknown was always fraught with peril, but diplomacy with a vessel that defied reality, a myth brought to battle, felt like an act of profound desperation. Yet the Arbiter's command was absolute. And what if they refused to communicate, Arbiter? Vikrel asked, his voice steady despite the internal turmoil. What if their classified mission prevents them from revealing the true nature of this starfall? Then you will observe, the Arbiter replied, his light now a steady, unwavering blue. You will observe their actions, their intentions, and you will relay all information back to the chamber. The hegemony cannot afford to make an error in judgment concerning a species that has dared to manifest a myth. The void was an inky, velvet canvas, punctuated by the cold, distant jewels of uncounted stars. Counselor Vikrel stood on the observation deck of the hegemony diplomatic vessel, the Starlight Herald, its polished viewport offering an unobstructed panorama of the Cathar expanse. The turbulent nebula, a vast, swirling maelstrom of cosmic gas and dust, glowed with an eerie internal light, painting the scene in hues of incandescent crimson and electric blue. Even through the Herald's advanced atmospheric filtration, Vikrel could sense the raw, untamed energy of the region, the chaotic dance of stellar creation and death. Truction, it was a place of wild beauty and profound danger, a fitting backdrop for their current mission. Beside him, Counselor Siller nervously groomed her delicate antennae, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the distant, fluctuating energy signature that was their target. "Its readings are still unstable, Vikrel," she chirped, her clicks conveying a subtle tremor. One moment, a barely discernible energy output, barely enough to power life support. The next, a spike that would register as a small star being compressed. It is disorienting. Our instruments struggle to maintain a lock. Counselor HFY's, his segmented form almost invisible against the darkened bulkhead, transmitted a series of low-frequency vibrations. "Our cloaking fields are holding. They do not appear to have detected our approach, or if they have, they show no indication of it." Vikrel activated his internal communications, addressing the hegemony command. "We are within observation range. The human vessel, designated Starfall, remains in the Cathar expanse. Its erratic trajectory continues. No apparent hostile intent, no directed energy signatures, just this impossible presence." The Arbiter's mental projection resonated within his mind. "Proceed with caution, Vikrel. Attempt a direct hail, utilizing all known human communication protocols. Be polite, but firm. Demand clarification regarding their activities and the nature of this vessel." "Understood, Arbiter," Vikrel replied, then turned to his own crew. "Open hailing frequencies, standard diplomatic packet, request identification and purpose." A moment of static, then a clear, unwavering voice, surprisingly calm and deep, filled the bridge. It was a human voice, speaking a standard hegemony trade dialect with a barely perceptible accent. "This is the human vessel Starfall. We acknowledge your hail, hegemony Starlight Herald. State your intentions." Vikrel felt a flicker of surprise. Their response was immediate, almost as if they had been expecting it. And their tone, it was not belligerent nor overtly defensive. It was simply professional. "This is Counselor Vikrel of the Hegemony," he responded, maintaining his species' characteristic calm. "We are here on a diplomatic mission. The Hegemony has concerns regarding your presence in the Cathar expanse, a region of shared interest. Specifically, we require clarification regarding the nature and purpose of your vessel, the Starfall. Your energy signatures and observed capabilities are highly unusual and fall outside of known hegemony technological parameters." A brief pause, then the human voice again. "Counselor Vikrel, we understand your concerns. As previously stated, the Starfall is engaged in a critical, non-aggressive mission. Its capabilities are indeed unique. We are currently unable to provide further details, as disclosure would compromise ongoing efforts critical to galactic security." Siller's antennae twitched in agitation. "They are repeating the same non-answer," she clicked, frustration lacing her voice. "They are deliberately stonewalling us." Vikrel maintained his composure. "Human vessel Starfall, the hegemony requires transparency from all species operating within its sphere of influence. Your refusal to provide clarification on a vessel of such anomalous characteristics, operating in a sensitive sector, is a breach of protocol and raises significant concerns regarding your intentions. We must ask again, what is the true nature of this Starfall?" Another pause, longer this time. The Starfall itself remained a distant, flickering enigma, its energy signatures still fluctuating wildly. Then the human voice returned, a subtle shift in its timbre, as if the speaker was carefully choosing their words. "Counselor, we respect the hegemony's protocols. However, the nature of our mission and the Starfall's capabilities are intrinsically linked to a threat that precedes known hegemony history, a threat that has recently reactivated. Releasing details prematurely would invite unforeseen complications and potentially jeopardize the entire galaxy. We ask for your patience and your trust. Our actions, though seemingly unconventional, are driven by a singular purpose, the safeguarding of all sentient life." Vikrel processed the words. "A threat that precedes known hegemony history? Reactivated," he repeated, a tremor running through his usually unflappable analytical core. The hegemony maintained comprehensive historical archives spanning tens of thousands of cycles. For a nascent species to speak of a threat beyond that scope was audacious or terrifyingly accurate. "And you expect us to trust a newly encountered species with such a claim, when your vessel defies all known scientific understanding, and you refuse to disclose its true nature." This time, the human voice held a note of profound weariness, a deep, resonant quality that spoke of burdens borne for too long. "Counselor, we understand your skepticism. Trust is earned, not given. But there are times when circumstances dictate a leap of faith or a recognition of shared purpose, even in the absence of complete understanding. What we ask for is not blind acceptance, but an opportunity to demonstrate the veracity of our claims through our actions. We are operating under extreme constraints, against an adversary that is patient, insidious, and immensely powerful. The starfall is our only viable tool against it. As the human spoke, a sudden, violent surge of energy erupted from the Cathar expanse. Not from the starfall, but from a previously undetected source, deep within the nebula's turbulent heart. Long-range sensors screamed a cacophony of warnings. "Energy spike," Scylla shrieked, her antennae flattening against her head plates. "Massive gravimetric distortions, a tear in reality, something is emerging." On the main view screen, the turbulent reds and blues of the nebula intensified, coalescing into a swirling vortex. From its center, a monstrous obsidian form began to emerge, not a ship, but a vast, sprawling construct of impossible geometry. It was a mass of jagged angles and shadowed voids, utterly devoid of any light, drinking in the surrounding starlight as if consuming it. Its size was staggering, dwarfing even the most immense hegemony dreadnoughts. Its presence alone seemed to twist the very fabric of space, bending light around its form in unsettling ways. Vikrel felt a primal fear, one he hadn't experienced since his earliest larval stage, when he had accidentally stumbled into a predator's den. This was not a natural phenomenon. This was an entity of malevolent intent, a cosmic horror made manifest. "What is that?" Arachai's vibrated, his form almost collapsing in on itself. "It is not on any hegemony star charts. No known species constructs vessels of such nightmare aesthetics." The human voice, though still calm, was now imbued with an undeniable urgency. "That, Counselor Vikrel, is what we are here to prevent. That is a null gate. It is a precursor-era construct, designed by an ancient, long-vanished civilization to harvest energy from nascent star systems and utilize it for unknown purposes. When active, it consumes all matter and energy in its vicinity, creating localized singularities. It is also a beacon, a signal flare for something far worse." The starfall now surged forward, no longer an erratic phantom, but a determined entity. Its energy signatures, which had been fluctuating wildly, suddenly stabilized, locking into a precise, immense output. The myth was revealing its truth. The dark, angular hull, once appearing crude, now resolved into something sleek and terrifyingly functional. Its pockmarks were not damage, but intricate energy conduits, glowing with an internal, furious light. Its primitive alloys shifted and reconfigured, revealing layers of advanced, shimmering composite materials. The distortion field around it intensified, no longer a subtle warping, but a powerful shield, deflecting the chaotic energies of the nebula as if they were nothing. It was no longer a scout. It was not a planetary defense platform. It was something entirely new, something designed for a singular, monumental purpose. It was a warship, forged in an age of unimaginable conflict, reborn to face an ancient foe. This ship was a myth until it showed up in battle. "The null gate is reactivating," the human voice boomed, now layered with multiple voices, male and female, harmonizing in a complex, urgent message. "It is drawing energy from the surrounding protostars. Its primary aperture is opening. We have seconds before it reaches critical mass and begins its harvest." Vikrel's analytical mind, despite the overwhelming fear, began to process the implications. If the null gate was indeed reactivating and capable of creating localized singularities, the Cathar expanse would be torn apart, creating a ripple effect that could destabilize entire sectors. This was not a localized threat. This was a cosmic catastrophe. "Hegemony Starlight Herald, maintain your distance," the human voice commanded, its authority undeniable. "Do not engage. You are not equipped to face this threat. The starfall will intercept." As the voice spoke, the starfall accelerated with breathtaking speed. A dark arrow launched into the heart of the maelstrom. It plunged directly towards the emerging null gate, its newly revealed energy conduits pulsing with an almost blinding light. From its hull, massive, previously unseen weapon ports opened, revealing not crude projectiles, but shimmering fields of contained plasma, swirling with incredible power. "Its weapons signatures," Scylla gasped, her clicks now almost a scream. "They are unlike anything we have ever recorded. A multi-phase gravitoplasma projector array. Its power output, it is magnitudes beyond anything in the hegemony arsenal." The starfall unleashed its first volley, not a barrage of indiscriminate fire, but a precise, concentrated beam of iridescent energy that struck the null gate's emerging aperture with surgical accuracy. The null gate, which had seemed impervious, shuddered. Black fragments of its impossible structure cracked and peeled away, vanishing into the chaotic energies of the nebula. The humans were not simply fighting the null gate. They were actively dismantling it, understanding its core weaknesses, targeting its critical points with astonishing precision. They knew, Vikrel murmured, his voice barely a whisper. They knew exactly what this null gate was. They knew its vulnerabilities. This critical, non-aggressive mission. It was a preemptive strike, a desperate race against time to prevent galactic catastrophe. The Starfall continued its relentless assault, weaving through the chaotic energies of the Cathar expanse with an impossible agility. Its shields flared, deflecting stray energy surges from the collapsing null gate. It was a ballet of destruction, a desperate fight against an ancient horror, performed by a ship that had been dismissed as a myth. The human voice, calmer now, as the Starfall continued its work, addressed Vikrel again. "Counselor, we understand the shock you must be experiencing. The knowledge of these null gates and the entities that control them has been guarded for millennia by a select few species, passed down through fragmented records. Humanity, through a series of archaeological discoveries on our homeworld, stumbled upon one of these records. It detailed the warning, the design parameters, and most crucially, the weaknesses of the null gates. The Starfall was constructed specifically to counter them, utilizing a fusion of our advanced theoretical physics and salvaged precursor technology, reverse-engineered and adapted." "Precursor technology?" Siller whispered, her antennae drooping. The precursors were a legendary civilization, their artifacts imbued with such power that their misuse had destabilized entire sectors. Their technology was deemed too dangerous for any species to fully comprehend or replicate. "Indeed, Counselor," the human voice confirmed. "We were forced to accelerate our technological development, dedicating all available resources to this project. The myth designation was a necessary measure to ensure its secrecy, to prevent panic, and to protect the project from external interference while we raced against the clock. The fluctuations in its energy signature and mass readings were a result of its unique adaptive systems, constantly reconfiguring its structure and output to minimize detection and maximize combat efficiency. It is designed to be a ghost, a legend, until its moment of truth." The null gate finally gave way. With a horrifying shriek of tortured spacetime, it collapsed in on itself, forming a brief, controlled singularity that quickly dissipated, absorbed by the volatile energies of the Cathar expanse. The nebula, as if breathing a sigh of relief, began to calm, its turbulent colors softening. The threat was averted. The Starfall now drifted silently amidst the receding cosmic chaos, its conduits still glowing, its angular form a silent testament to its monumental achievement. It had saved a sector, perhaps even more, from an ancient horror, and it had revealed the true nature of humanity. They were not merely an aggressive, emotional species. They were guardians, silently bearing a burden of ancient knowledge, developing a technology that defied galactic understanding, and willing to face down cosmic horrors alone if necessary. This ship was a myth until it showed up in battle. And in that battle, humanity had shown its true, formidable, and utterly unexpected face. The return to the crystalline chamber of deliberation was a stark contrast to the previous departure. The tension was palpable, a heavy silence pregnant with a different kind of fear, the fear of profound misjudgment. The delegates, once arrogant in their assessment of humanity, now sat in stunned introspection, the horrifying images of the null gate and the Starfall's decisive victory replaying in their minds. The human vessel, once a spectral anomaly, now stood revealed as a bulwark against cosmic dread. And humanity itself, once dismissed as a nascent, emotional species, was now understood to possess a terrifying competence and a hidden depth that defied all prior assumptions. Counselor Vikrel, his manipulators now steady, his internal processors having fully integrated the overwhelming data, stepped onto the central dais. His report was delivered with his characteristic Vrel precision, devoid of embellishment, yet each word carried the weight of a galactic paradigm shift. He recounted the emergence of the null gate, the sheer, annihilating power it represented, and the Starfall's impossible capabilities. He detailed the human communication, their initial cryptic warnings, and their eventual weary explanation, delivered as they fought for the very existence of the hegemony without its knowledge or explicit consent. The humans were not being arrogant arbiter, Vikrel concluded, his voice resonating through the hushed chamber. They were being pragmatic. Their classified mission was indeed for galactic security. Their reluctance to share details was not defiance, but a calculated risk to prevent premature panic and potential interference in a highly delicate, time-sensitive operation. The Starfall is not merely a warship. It is a specialized instrument, forged for a singular, ancient purpose. Its fluctuating readings were a deliberate deceptive measure, part of its active camouflage and adaptive reconfiguration protocols, designed to mask its true capabilities until the precise moment of engagement. Counselor Siller, her antennae now held in a posture of respectful awe, projected her linguistic analysis. Their communication, while initially perceived as evasive, contained subtle markers of ancient precursor dialects within the sub-band frequencies. These were not direct translations, but resonant frequencies, like a signature hidden within their words. Our protocols, designed to detect contemporary species, completely overlooked them. The human claim of possessing precursor knowledge is corroborated by this finding. They possess genuine, ancient wisdom, not merely conjecture. Counselor RHI's, his form now upright and rigid with newfound respect, projected a detailed schematic of the Null Gate's destructive potential, based on the Starfall's combat data. Had the Null Gate fully activated, the Cathar expanse would have become a localized singularity, consuming not just the protostars, but drawing in nearby systems. The gravimetric shockwaves alone would have fractured the hegemony's outer colonies. The humans saved us from an unimaginable catastrophe, without our knowledge, and seemingly without seeking reward or recognition. The Grand Arbiter's light pulsed with a new, somber intensity. A species that bears such a burden, that wages such a war in the shadows, that develops such a terrifyingly advanced technology, and yet presents itself as a newly emergent emotional species. This challenges every precept of the hegemony. We have judged them through the lens of our own prejudices, our own assumptions of galactic order. We have underestimated them profoundly. Underestimated is an insufficient term, Arbiter, Vikrel corrected, his gaze sweeping across the stunned delegates. We almost condemned them. Our initial response was fear, suspicion, and a willingness to engage in preemptive strikes against what we perceived as a hostile anomaly. Had the Starfall chosen to reveal its true capabilities against us, the outcome would have been catastrophic for the hegemony. They wield power we cannot comprehend, yet they chose to wield it for the collective good, without asking, without boasting. A heavy silence descended. The implications were immense. The humans, a species they had barely acknowledged, possessed a technological and strategic superiority that dwarfed the hegemonies. They were not just peers, they were, in certain critical aspects, vastly more advanced, holding knowledge of cosmic threats that predated the hegemony's very foundation. We must establish full diplomatic relations immediately, the Arbiter declared, his voice resonating with absolute authority. We must offer them every resource, every assistance they require. We must learn from them, and most importantly, we must understand the full scope of this threat that precedes known hegemony history. What did the humans mean by the Null Gate being a beacon for something far worse? Vikrel's internal sensors registered a cold dread again, a different kind of dread now, mingled with a profound respect. During the final phase of the engagement, Arbiter, as the Null Gate was collapsing, the humans transmitted a final, brief message to us. It was a warning, stark and chilling. They stated that the Null Gates are merely tools, ancient harvesters. The true threat, they said, are the architects of these gates, a species they referred to as the Void Weavers. And that the Null Gate's activation, however brief, would have indeed alerted them to the presence of sentient life in this region. The Arbiter's light dimmed significantly, its hues shifting to a deep, almost obsidian black. The name Void Weavers was unknown to the hegemony's archives, a chilling void in their vast repository of cosmic knowledge. The Void Weavers, the Arbiter mused, his voice a low thrum that vibrated through the very core of the chamber. And the humans possess knowledge of this ancient enemy, an enemy capable of constructing such terrifying implements of cosmic destruction. Indeed, Arbiter, Vikrel confirmed. They have invited us to a conference to share what they know, to present the historical records they possess, and to forge an alliance against this impending threat. They stated that the hegemony, with its vast resources and diverse species, could be a crucial ally in what they anticipate will be a prolonged, multi-generational conflict. A multi-generational conflict. The words hung in the air, cold and stark. The hegemony, accustomed to millennia of relative peace and unchallenged dominance, was being asked to join a war against an unknown, ancient, and terrifyingly powerful enemy, and to do so under the guidance of a species they had, only hours ago, considered a potential minor threat. "This is an unprecedented moment in galactic history," the Arbiter finally declared, his light returning to a steady, resolute blue. "We have been humbled, we have been corrected, and we have been shown a path forward guided by a species we dismissed as a myth. Send a full diplomatic fleet to humanity's designated coordinates. We will accept their invitation, we will listen, and we will prepare. The hegemony will stand with humanity against these void weavers. For if this starfall was a myth until it showed up in battle, then perhaps humanity itself is the myth that will save us all." The human homeworld, a vibrant blue and green jewel nestled in a relatively unassuming star system, pulsed with an unexpected energy. The hegemony diplomatic fleet, stripped of all overt weaponry and flying flags of peace and cooperation, orbited respectfully, a silent testament to the new, fragile alliance. Counselor Vikrel stood on the observation deck of the Herald, observing the busy orbital traffic, human vessels, far more numerous and diverse than previously assumed, moving with purpose and efficiency. Their technology, while still aesthetically less refined than hegemony designs, was clearly optimized for function, a testament to a species focused on results rather than mere elegance. Below, the surface of the planet shimmered with the lights of vast cities, interconnected by luminous energy grids. He could see massive orbital construction yards, where new Starfall-class vessels, or at least smaller, similar designs, were clearly being assembled, their angular forms slowly taking shape against the backdrop of the planet. Humanity had not simply built one mythical ship. They were clearly preparing for a far larger, more sustained conflict. On the bridge, Counselor Siller was meticulously analyzing the human cultural data streaming into their consoles. "Their societal structure is complex, Arbiter," she projected, addressing the distant hegemony core. "They have multiple, seemingly autonomous nation-states, yet they united with extraordinary speed and efficiency when faced with the null-gate threat. Their internal conflicts, while historically present, appear to be suppressed or resolved when confronted with an existential external threat. Their capacity for unity and shared purpose is remarkable." Counselor RHI's, his pheromones indicating deep thought, projected. "Their philosophical tenets, while diverse, contain a recurring emphasis on self-sacrifice, resilience, and a deep-seated desire to protect future generations. They speak of the greater good in ways that transcend individual gain or even species-specific survival. It is a profound ethical framework, one that drove them to develop the Starfall in secrecy, knowing the risks it entailed." The Arbiter's voice resonated. "And the conference, Vikrel, what have the humans revealed about the Void Weavers?" Vikrel took a moment to compose his thoughts. The past cycle had been a whirlwind of revelations. The humans, led by a calm, sagacious individual simply designated Overseer Elias Vance, had laid bare a cosmic history that dwarfed the hegemony's own. Their archives, compiled from fragments of precursor data vaults found across multiple worlds, including their own, detailed the rise of the Void Weavers. "Arbiter, the Void Weavers are not a biological species in the conventional sense," Vikrel began, his voice solemn. "They are a collective consciousness, a synthetic intelligence that achieved sentience in a distant, long-dead galaxy. They consume all organic life, processing it into pure energy to fuel their relentless expansion. The null gates are their harvesters designed to soften systems, to draw in prey, and to signal their presence to the main Void Weaver fleets. They do not conquer, they assimilate. They do not rule, they consume." A shiver went through the Hegemony Council. To face an enemy that sought not conquest but total annihilation, an enemy that was not merely hostile but fundamentally alien in its very purpose, was a terrifying prospect. "And their primary method of travel?" the Arbiter inquired. "They manipulate subspace, Arbiter," Vikrel explained, recalling the human overseer's meticulous presentation. "They fold reality, traversing vast cosmic distances in ways that defy our current understanding. They move through the voids between galaxies, manifesting through constructs like the null. Gates which act as their anchors, their eyes, and their mouths. They are slow by galactic standards, but utterly relentless. They have devoured entire galaxies, leaving behind only dead stars and cold dust. The hegemony systems, the humans estimate, are next on their migratory path. The null gate in the Cathar expanse was merely an advance scout, a probe to test the waters to see if the region was ripe for harvesting. The magnitude of the threat settled heavily upon the hegemony. This was not a war against another empire for resources or territory. This was a struggle for existence itself, against a force of pure, consuming entropy. The humans' arbiter have been tracking the Void Weavers for millennia through their precursor data, Vikrel continued. They discovered that the Void Weavers are not truly invulnerable. They have a weakness, a fundamental flaw in their synthetic consciousness. They are incapable of understanding organic thought, of comprehending creativity, empathy, or the chaotic beauty of life itself. These are the very qualities that make organic species unpredictable to them, making them inefficient to assimilate. The Starfall was designed to exploit this. Its advanced AI, running on human neural computational architecture, is specifically programmed to generate nonlinear, unpredictable combat patterns, to overwhelm the Void Weavers, logical processing, and to target the nodes of their collective consciousness, the central nexus points that control their vast, synthetic fleets. The delegates processed this, a species fighting an enemy not with brute force, but with the very essence of its organic, unpredictable nature. And the ultimate objective, the Arbiter asked. The humans cannot possibly hope to destroy an entire galactic-spanning synthetic consciousness, can they? Vikrel paused, remembering Overseer Vance's calm, almost serene explanation. No, Arbiter, they cannot, not alone. The Void Weavers are too vast, too ancient, but the humans have a larger strategy. The Starfall and its sister ships are designed to be temporary bulwarks to buy time. They call it the Grand Diversion. The precursor records indicate that the Void Weavers, when faced with an overwhelming, unpredictable resistance, can be temporarily redirected. They can be made to chase a phantom, to focus their consuming hunger on a specific, strategically vital target, allowing the organic species of this galaxy to escape, to regroup, to find sanctuary. To escape, Counselor Siller clicked, her voice filled with alarm. To abandon our home systems, to flee the galaxy. Not permanently, Siller, Vikrel clarified. The humans have identified a cluster of dormant, stable pocket dimensions, remnants of precursor experimentation. They propose that these can be activated, stabilized, and used as temporary refuges for organic life, while a new, long-term strategy is developed. The Grand Diversion would lure the Void Weavers away, deeper into the voids between galaxies, allowing us the time to build a true defense, to unite all species, and to eventually, perhaps, confront them on terms more favorable to organic life. The sheer scale of the human plan was breathtaking. It was not merely a tactical maneuver. It was an existential gamble, a multi-generational strategy for the survival of all life in the galaxy, conceived and implemented by a species they had barely acknowledged. It spoke of a foresight, a selflessness, and a terrifying pragmatism that redefined their understanding of what a nascent species could be. The humans are not asking us to simply join their war, Arbiter, Vikrel concluded, his voice filled with a quiet reverence. They are asking us to participate in the survival of all life. They have already committed their entire civilization, their very future, to this grand diversion. They are prepared to sacrifice everything, to become the primary target, the bait, to protect us all. The Grand Arbiter's light, which had been dim and somber, now flared with a brilliant, almost blinding intensity. Then we shall stand with them, he declared, his voice resonating through the entire hegemony network, carrying to every delegate, every species, every sentient mind. The hegemony will commit its full resources, its scientific minds, its shipyards, its entire collective will to this endeavor. We will learn from humanity. We will assist in the activation of these pocket dimensions. We will become a part of the Grand Diversion. If humanity is willing to bear such a burden for the survival of us all, then we, the hegemony, shall not be found wanting. A silent, unanimous agreement swept through the chamber. The fear was still present, but it was now tempered by a newfound resolve, a shared purpose forged in the crucible of existential dread and profound admiration. The myth of humanity, a species once underestimated, had been revealed as the very force that would unite and guide them through the calm. In Cosmic Storm, cycles passed. The collaboration between humanity and the hegemony was unprecedented in galactic history. The human homeworld became a nexus of interspecies cooperation, its orbital construction yards churning out Starfall-class vessels with astounding efficiency, augmented by hegemony materials and expertise. Hegemony scientists, initially struggling to comprehend the complex, nonlinear physics underpinning the Starfall's design, slowly began to integrate human theoretical frameworks into their own. leading to a profound revolution in their understanding of spacetime and energy manipulation. Pocket dimensions, long dormant remnants of precursor experimentation, were meticulously activated and stabilized by a combined human hegemony effort. Vast arc ships, capable of carrying entire species, were constructed, their designs a blend of human practicality and hegemony grandeur. The scale of the undertaking was monumental, requiring the dedication of trillions of sentient beings, the shifting of entire planetary economies, and the rewriting of countless cultural priorities. It was a race against an unseen, ancient foe, a race for the survival of all organic life. Overseer Elias Vance, now a familiar and respected figure throughout the hegemony, stood with Counselor Vikrel on a newly constructed orbital platform above the human homeworld. Around them, the final preparations for the grand diversion were underway. Hundreds of Starfall-class vessels, their angular forms now a symbol of hope rather than mystery, gathered in formation, their internal conduits glowing with readiness. Behind them, arrayed in a vast, silent crescent, were the hegemony's largest dreadnoughts, their sleek, organic forms imbued with new, human-derived technologies. The first wave of arc ships has successfully transitioned into the primary refuge dimension. Counselor, Vance's calm voice cut through the hum of the platform. His face, etched with the subtle lines of command and profound responsibility, held an unyielding resolve. The Viridian and the Eldrin have begun the initial stabilization protocols within the refuge. Their ecosystems are being carefully re-established. Soon, the Xylos will follow, then the others. Vikrel felt a pang of complex emotion. His own species, the Virel, would be among the last to enter the refuge, their logical minds deemed essential for managing the initial phases of the grand diversion. It was a heavy burden, but one they accepted without question. "And the Void Weaver advance fleets?" he inquired. Vance gestured towards a distant star, a faint crimson glow in the blackness. "Their probes are closing in. They detected the null gate's activation, however brief. They are now converging on this sector, drawn by the signal, by the promise of biomass. Our estimates indicate their main fleet will arrive within a few cycles. We are nearing the critical window for the grand diversion to commence." "Are you certain this will work, Overseer?" Vikrel asked, his voice betraying a hint of the underlying anxiety that permeated all sentient beings in the galaxy. To bait a galactic consciousness of such destructive power, it is an extraordinary gamble. Vance turned to Vikrel, his gaze steady. "Certainty is a luxury, Counselor, that organic life can rarely afford when facing cosmic threats. But we have faith in the precursor data, in our understanding of the Void Weaver's limitations, and in the resilience of organic life itself. We are designed to be unpredictable, to be chaotic, to be everything they are not. That, we believe, is our strength. We will lead them on a chase, deeper into the intergalactic void, away from this nexus of organic life." Vikrel looked at the burgeoning fleet, a testament to interspecies unity. The Starfalls, silent and formidable, poised for a conflict of unimaginable scale. He looked back at the blue-green jewel of the human homeworld, knowing that its fate and the fate of all species hinged on this moment. "And your species, Overseer?" Vikrel finally asked, his voice hushed. "You will lead the diversion, your people will become the primary target. This is a sacrifice of immense proportions." Vance smiled, a rare, gentle expression that softened the lines of his face. "Counselor, sacrifice is a concept often misunderstood. It is not an act of despair, but an act of hope. We are not sacrificing ourselves for nothing. We are sacrificing our present for the future, for the survival of all the unique, beautiful, and chaotic forms of life that exist in this galaxy. It is our purpose. It is what we were unknowingly prepared for, across millennia, driven by a fear that became a resolve, a myth that became a shield." A sudden, sharp alarm blared across the platform, a red alert. Vance's face instantly became impassive, his composure unwavering. "The Void Weavers," he stated, his voice calm, yet imbued with an iron resolve. "They have arrived." "Oh." In the main view screen, the distant crimson star now shimmered, not with natural light, but with the cold, hungry gleam of countless synthetic vessels. They poured into the system like a tide of cosmic blight, dark, angular, devoid of any light, a chilling mirror to the Starfall's purposeful form. This was the enemy, a vast, consuming consciousness, ancient and relentless. "Begin the grand diversion," Vance commanded, his voice broadcast across all unified channels. "Phase 1, engage with maximum unpredictability, draw their attention, lead them away from the refuge egress points. Hegemony forces secure the final arc ship transitions, maintain defensive perimeters, we go to war. The Starfall fleet surged forward, a disciplined formation of dark angels against the encroaching darkness. Their conduits flared, their engines roared, a symphony of engineered power. They did not retreat, they advanced. They met the overwhelming tide of the Void Weavers head-on, not seeking to destroy the entire fleet, but to confuse, to distract, to become the bait in a desperate, galaxy-saving gambit. From the Starfall's weapon ports, the gravitoplasma projectors unleashed torrents of iridescent energy, not in straight lines, but in complex weaving patterns, dancing through the Void Weaver formations, hitting critical nodes, disrupting their algorithmic precision. The hegemony vessels, now augmented with human tactical AI, responded with their own coordinated fire, creating a protective shield around the departing arc ships. The battle raged, a silent, furious maelstrom of light and shadow. The Void Weavers, accustomed to overwhelming and predictable resistance, found themselves confused, their logical processing units struggling to parse the chaotic, almost artistic combat patterns of the humans. The Starfalls were everywhere at once, flickering between subspace and real space, creating false signatures, leading the Void Weavers on a convoluted chase through the star system. Vance stood at the tactical console, observing the intricate dance of death, his face grim but resolute. "They are taking the bait," he murmured, more to himself than to Krell. "Their focus is shifting. They perceive us as a significant threat, an anomaly that must be processed, analyzed, and consumed. That is their weakness. They cannot ignore what they do not understand." Krell watched the human homeworld, now almost completely obscured by the departing arc ships and the swirling chaos of battle. He knew that soon, the humans would lead the Void Weavers away, deep into the cosmic abyss, becoming the sacrificial lambs in a desperate hope for the survival of all. A profound sense of loss mingled with an overwhelming surge of admiration. Then a new reading flashed on the tactical display. A faint, almost imperceptible energy signature, not from the Void Weavers, nor from the hegemony, nor even from the humans. It was an ancient, powerful signature, emanating from beyond the farthest reaches of the galactic rim, a source previously unknown and utterly massive. Vance's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "What is that?" he murmured, his composure momentarily faltering. "Our sensors have never detected anything of that magnitude. It is vast." The energy signature pulsed, not with aggression but with a steady, rhythmic cadence. And then a signal, a pure mathematical burst of information, cut through the battle's static, overriding all communication protocols, implanting itself directly into the neural nets of all sentient beings present. It was a message, concise and profound, in a language that transcended any known dialect, understood intuitively by every mind. "The great sleep ends. The guardians awaken. Do not yield. You are not alone. The web of life will not be consumed." A collective gasp swept through the hegemony command center. Krell felt a shiver ripple through his entire being. This was not the Void Weavers. This was something else, something even older, something beyond the precursors, the guardians, the web of life. Vance, however, had regained his composure, a flicker of something akin to awe in his eyes. He looked at the vast energy signature, then back at the message. "The precursor records mentioned legends," he whispered, his voice filled with a new kind of hope. "Legends of ancient protectors, entities that moved through the voids between realities, observing, waiting. We always dismissed them as myth. But perhaps the myth of the Starfall was not the only truth revealed today." The message repeated, a beacon of immense power and ancient promise, its source now steadily approaching, its sheer scale eclipsing even the vastness of the Void Weaver fleets. The battle, raging around the human homeworld, momentarily paused, every combatant, every synthetic mind, every organic consciousness, registering the profound shift in cosmic balance. The grand diversion was still critical. The humans still had to lead the Void Weavers away, but now they would not be alone in their desperate gambit. A larger twist beyond the scope of their immediate conflict had unfolded. Humanity, in its desperate, selfless act, had awakened something far older, far more powerful than even the Void Weavers. They had not merely saved a galaxy, they had reconnected it to an ancient, sleeping cosmic defense. The myth of the Starfall had not only shown up in battle, it had called forth a truth grander than any could have imagined. Humanity, once underestimated, once dismissed, was now the catalyst for a galactic awakening, a defiant stand against the encroaching darkness, with newfound allies emerging from the deepest, forgotten corners of the universe. The future, though still fraught with peril, now shimmered with an entirely new, profound, and utterly unexpected hope.